Are you looking for a fish that is small, colorful, and super peaceful? Then you're probably looking for the Ember Tetra. And in this video, we're going to talk all about how to care for it and if you should have it in your aquarium. Hey guys, welcome back to Matt Keeps Fish, and today, yes, we are talking about the Ember Tetra, which I've had for the last 2 years in 3 different aquariums, and I've cohabitated it with a bunch of different fish. Through all that time, I've learned a lot about the Ember Tetra, and I'm excited to share it with you guys, so here we go. Like I said at the beginning, the Ember Tetra is colorful, small, and super peaceful. It's about, I think the biggest one I have is the end of my pinky. It's really a small fish. The females are going to be the biggest in my experience, but they're still not going to get any larger than that. If you're trying to find out how to sex them, it's really not that hard. You just have to wait until they're mature, and then you'll notice that the females really start to round out while the males stay a lot thinner. Both males and females will get that bright ember orange as they grow, although it does take a little while. I still have some in here that aren't quite matured to that point yet, but they are getting there. Something I love about the Ember Tetra that allows you to keep it in smaller aquariums is that they are what I call a hovering tetra. They aren't streamlined like some other tetras would be, or rasboras, but they have more of a square-shaped body, and they don't swim as fast because of it. They tend to just hover and bounce around, which I'm guessing you guys can see right here. At the top point of their square, or I guess diamond-shaped body, you'll notice that they have a black tip to their dorsal fin, which I think is really cool. Again, this develops more with age. And the orange of the Ember Tetra extends to almost all fins and even the eyes of the fish, which makes them that much more colorful. So how do you care for these little fish? Well, the first thing to consider is their environmental needs. Now this includes temperature and size and a few other things, but we'll start with temperature. These guys need a tropical temperature between, I'd say, 72 to 82. I think I keep them at 76 right now, but anywhere in that warmer zone is necessary. If you're living in a warmer climate, you probably don't need a heater, but for the most part, I strongly recommend them to keep things stable. Now, I feel like it's going to come up in the comments as a question, so I'm just going to answer it before it does. What are the water chemistry needs of the Ember Tetra? And my answer to that is that they don't really have a need. There certainly are some fish, especially some fish brought directly from the wild, that'll be really picky about their water chemistry, but with the Ember Tetra, as long as you are acclimating them slowly, so if you're bringing them from a store that works off well water and you're bringing them into soft city water, make sure that you have some sort of slow adjustment period between the two types of water. I've had Amazonian fish in well water that goes above 9.0 pH. I've had them in water that goes just below 7. I guess I can't speak to the 6.0 pH and below. That is all just to say that they are very adaptable, as most fish are. So now the important stuff. What tank size would I put them in? I really wouldn't put them in anything smaller than a 5-gallon, although I believe it is possible to keep them alive in something smaller than a 5-gallon. When you're considering a minimum tank size for a fish, you have to take 2 things into account. Is there enough water volume to dilute the waste so that the bacteria can handle it? And is there enough of a footprint so that the fish has an enriched and good life? Since the Ember Tetra has that more diamond-shaped body meant for hovering, we can recommend a smaller size tank because it's not going to be constantly using the full footprint of the tank as much. If the Ember Tetra was a more streamlined, more hyperactive fish, we would probably recommend a larger tank size because it would be using that footprint more. So 5 gallons is my minimum, but go way above that. This is a 20-gallon and they love it. As with pretty much any fish, if you put it in a tank with nothing to hide behind at all, it's going to be super stressed. It's not going to show as good color, which is super important for these guys, and it's not going to have as long of a lifespan. So no matter what tank size you put these guys in, make sure they have something to hide behind so they feel safe. The safer they feel, the more they're going to be out. For a few weeks, I actually had a bunch of these guys in quarantine just to treat for worms and things like that upon arrival, and I actually lost 3 of them because the flow from the filter was way too high. In this case especially, you really have to consider what kind of environment these fish are meant for, because if you put them in something like that, they're not going to last. Okay, this is a fun one. Tank mates, what can you keep them with? I have kept them with plenty of things. I've kept them with lamp-eye killifish, peaceful gouramis, non-predatory catfish, snails, shrimp, celestial pearl danios, so many things. If you guys have any specific questions about tank mates, put it in the comments and I'll answer as soon as possible. The most important thing to keep with your Ember Tetra by far is more Ember Tetras, as many as you can do. I started off with, I think, 14. I have 10 or 11 now. They absolutely need company. They need a group of their own species with them at all times. If you keep these guys alone without a school, they will have a shortened lifespan. There have been circumstances where I have kept them in just a group of 3, and it makes for some really weird interactions. Most Tetras, if you keep them in like 2 or 3, one becomes like the big dog and he's hogging all the food and he's terrorizing the other Tetra. So you really don't want that. In my case, what happened is the female, who I've noticed, the female's always dominant with Ember Tetras. Because it was a female and 2 males, the female kind of terrorized the males. Thankfully, it's a large tank, so they were able to get away. But as soon as I put more Ember Tetras in, all the aggression stopped, and now they just flow around the tank. So more fish means more safety, less stress, and less aggression. Super key things to remember. That said, Ember Tetras are still super peaceful fish, so even though they were aggressive to each other and there was a lot of stress, there's never any ripped fins or any real damage. Okay, last section for this care guide, feeding. What do you feed them? Now, if you guys want more sections to these care guides, let me know in the comments, but as for now, 3 sections. So what do you feed them? I pretty much just feed them flakes. They have really small mouths because they're really small fish. And so I'll just crush up flakes almost into a powder so that everyone's able to eat. I have tried them with omega-1 micro pellets and bug bite micro pellets. They don't really work that well. Even for the largest female Ember Tetra, she kind of has to wait till it drops to the bottom, softens up, and then she'll start picking at it. So if you don't have sand, if it's just going to fall through the cracks and you don't have live plants, I wouldn't even consider pellets because you're gonna have a lot more food waste in the aquarium. With frozen food and live food, I've tried mosquito larvae. It can get a little bit messy. With frozen food, I've tried bloodworms. It's a little bit big for them, even if you get the mini ones. Really, only the larger females are going to be able to eat it. If you cultivated your own white worms, that could work pretty well. But for the most part, I'm just going to say stick with a variety of flakes for these guys. So, should you get this fish? Should you keep Ember Tetras in your aquarium? Probably. There's not a lot of good reasons not to, but if you have large fish, an aquarium that's too small, you live somewhere cooler and you don't have a heater, stuff like that, I would avoid Ember Tetras. There's better options out there for you. But if you like this fish as much as I do and you meet all the care requirements to keep it, then I would absolutely recommend a nice big school of Ember Tetras in your aquarium. Now I'm passing the mic to you guys. What are your experiences with Ember Tetras? What do you think that I needed to add or possibly got wrong in this video? And what questions do you have? Let me know in the comments below. Now if you like this video, leave it a like. If you want to see more like this, more care guides, more updates on my aquariums, subscribe, and I will see you guys on a Sunday. Can be the right side. Can be right. That would be no. That would be it. Wait. If I'm watching me, that would be where the cards are. No, that would be where the cards are. Date cards. There. Cards. Cards on the right side. Yes, we're good.